Traumatic, testing, tragic. Three words that sum up the last few months here in Queensland. From the state south to the tropical north, it's been a wet season to forget for many of us, impacting the lives, homes and businesses of countless people.
G'day and welcome to a very special episode of Creek to Coast. Now, like most, I spent the majority of the summer break glued to the television, watching the flood disaster unfold across the state. From where I live up in the north, down through the central regions, all the way down here to the south, where so many people lost so much. Today on the show, we're going to be checking out what all this water means if you enjoy fishing, boating, four-wheel driving, and exactly what the future holds for these activities.
Through both cyclones and floods, the level of support given to those in need was unprecedented in our state's history. People all over Queensland representing every industry put up their hand to give a hand, and our fellow boaties were no different. While evacuations were underway on land, on the Water Police, a volunteer marine rescue and the Coast Guard took to the river to do what they could. VMR Raby Bay's Commodore Keith Williams said it's the worst situation he's ever been involved with.
Mate, it was like another world. You're used to seeing things like that on TV from other countries, but not here in Brisbane, you know. And when you're looking at pontoons by the dozen floating past, you've just been destroyed and things like that, you know. And you realise that for each one of those pontoons, there's a heartbreak story to be told, you know. Yeah, that gets a bit tough. I was typically starting around about, arriving at Water Police at 4 in the morning, so getting out of bed an hour or two before that, and then sometimes going through till midnight, so you get just a few hours sleep overnight.
While the Water Police, VMR and Coast Guard worked the river helping to save lives, the biggest challenge they faced was their vessels being incapacitated by floating debris, and getting them back out on the water quickly required a little help from their friends.
We had police from the Marine Technical Section just working on their own time. We had the Haines group that got parts out to us just out of hours at the drop of a hat, and we had John Eadie as well actually brought parts out to us and did some of the work there towards the end as well. So there's a lot of people involved in just keeping us going. It was a big effort, and you know, you can't give enough credit to those guys for doing that.
And I heard even the big Pride and Joy got a little bit sick.
She had a $170,000 refit in last October, and once again the pride of the fleet, and she took a bit of a beating over that few days. Got some scratches on the hull from hitting things that we just simply couldn't see. Then there was a case of one of the props picked up something and jammed it through one of the cav plates and split the cav plate. And then finally, just the sheer amount of silt and sand in the water. The water is almost black, you know, and that destroyed a set of water pumps halfway through that 3-day period, and then destroyed another set of water pumps towards the end. There's a brand new set of water pumps got destroyed.
John Haines from the Haines Group remembers only too well the devastation the 1974 flood brought to Brisbane and surrounding areas. That year, the family lost everything. Thankfully, this time around, their new factory in Wacol was spared from inundation, so they had plenty of boats, parts and manpower to throw at those that needed it.
Last time we lost the factory, we lost our home, which was just up the road from the factory, and Mum and Dad were building a home on the river at Jindalee with foundations and landscaping, and that went as well. Dad tells the story of when I was, Greg and I were both walking through the factory after the floods in gumboots. Dad had Greg and I under each arm, and Dad tells the story that tears just running down our eyes, not knowing what was going on, but just it's very impactful.
On the Wednesday morning, the Haines Group sparked into action by offering parts and boats to the Coast Guard, VMR and Water Police. Staff were actually brought off holidays to service their vessels, and 2 boats that were destined to cruise the Broadwater were sent to the Water Police to patrol the Brisbane River.
We spoke to the police and found out what they needed. We were doing midnight runs of spare parts, propellers, obviously with all the debris in the river, propellers, impeller pumps, impeller pump casings. We loaned them a couple of Walker Bay generation inflatable boats.
How do you do that in the floods? Like, I mean, it must have been a mad panic, and here's the Haines Group offering boats and motors. Like, wow, how'd you coordinate it all?
You know, it just happens, Scotty. You know, when your back's against the wall, you make things happen. And I don't know how the SES and the Water Police and the Coast Guard and the VMR coordinated, but you know, they had a much bigger task than we did. We just had to help them out and get spare parts to them. And it was all great community spirit. That's certainly something that's come out of this devastation.
Coming up later on in the show, we find out what's next as we go behind the scenes of the clean-up operation.